Have the Steelers taking on the Baltimore Ravens. This is your AFC Wildcard 2025 prediction and preview video. Hit subscribe if you're new. Also hit the like button. This is the third time that these teams are facing each other. So I'm going to tell you right now early in the video, this can go either way. In the past, the Steelers have given Lamar Jackson a lot of problems. Mike Tomlin and his defense has been one of the best defenses against Lamar Jackson in his career. But in the last game, we saw Coach Harbaugh and Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator, go out there with a designated game plan to run the football with Derrick Henry and get the football out quick. Let's start with the home team, the Baltimore Ravens. 4 weeks ago, the Steelers had control of this division. If they were to go out there and just beat the Baltimore Ravens and win one more game, they would have won the division. That was not the case. They lost their last 4 games. The Ravens won their last 4 games. When you look at Lamar Jackson in that first matchup, because the Steelers did defeat the Baltimore Ravens in the first encounter, they won that game 18-16. Lamar Jackson on the day did not play bad. Did he play like an MVP? No, but he was 16-33, 207 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown to 1 interception. And the 1 interception was not on Lamar Jackson. If you guys remember, he throws a complete dime to Justice Hill. It goes for a first down. On the way down, down with the football, Peyton Wilson comes out of nowhere, intercepts the football, has a great play, takes the ball away from Justice Hill. Not only just that, Justin Tucker had one of the worst games of his career. He missed numerous field goals in that first matchup. In the second game, they executed better. First encounter, Derrick Henry only had 13 carries and he fumbled the football. And the Steelers won that matchup. They didn't score an offensive touchdown the entire day. But in the second matchup, Lamar Jackson went out there and he looked like the league MVP that he may be this season. 15-23. 207 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns to 1 interception. But it was more than just Lamar Jackson looking good in that matchup. Derrick Henry was the driving force. Remember, they only gave him 13 carries in the first game. He had 24 carries in the second game for 162 rushing yards. He averaged 7 yards a carry. Feed Derrick Henry in this matchup and get the football out quick. That's going to be the point of emphasis in this matchup for the Baltimore Ravens and Todd Monken. We saw what the Baltimore Ravens did last year against the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship. They barely ran the football. They went away from their script, and that's what the Steelers want you to do. They want to take away that run game, not because Lamar Jackson can't throw. Lamar Jackson had 41 passing touchdowns to just 4 interceptions, but he is a better quarterback when he can work off the run game, and that can be said for every quarterback in the NFL. But when you look at Lamar Jackson, you spread this offense out. You can go into some shotgun formations, not because you want him to sit back all day long. Get the football out quick to Rashard Bateman. Get the football out quick to Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews. The Steelers, in the last 3 weeks, they have struggled against the quick game. And we saw this against the Kansas City Chiefs. When TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, they don't have enough time to pin their ears back and get to the quarterback, deliver the football on a dime. They eats up this defense. They do play press man coverage, but you can beat them with a bunch of slants and a bunch of drags and a bunch of screens. Tire out this defense. Dink and dunk your way down the field. It's a death by 1,000 paper cuts. That's what Tom Brady did a great job of in his career, and that's what Patrick Mahomes has done since they traded Tyreek Hill to the Miami Dolphins. Lamar Jackson did that in the second matchup against the Steelers, and then he would take a deep shot down the field to a Rashard Bateman or to a Zay Flowers. Now, Zay Flowers is questionable for this game. He's on pace not to play in this matchup. That can change. He has a knee brace on his knee. He hasn't been able to practice. He got injured against the Cleveland Browns. I am worried about that because he's their best route runner. He's their best separator. Rashard Bateman can separate, but he's not the same player that Zay Flowers is. Zay Flowers is a definition of a human joystick, and it's the reason why he led this team in receiving yards. He's one of the best wide receivers in the league in terms of being a deep threat and going down there and separating with the deep routes. If you don't have him in this game, it's going to hurt, but you have Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews. The Steelers have struggled against tight ends going across the middle of the field, not because of Mika Fitzpatrick. Look at Patrick Queen. In that second matchup against the Ravens, he struggled. He struggled against Mark Andrews, and you can run a 2 tight end set. Then you can open up this offense. You can go out there with Justice Hill, use him as a receiver out the backfield and run him in between the tackles. And he will play in this game. He's dealing with an illness / a concussion injury, but he's going to be on pace to play in this matchup. He will play. It's more so due to an illness. He got knocked out of the game against the Steelers with a brutal hit by Deshaun Elliott. He flipped him on top of his head and he was unconscious for a couple of seconds, but he was able to walk off with his own power. Use those running backs. The biggest key here for the Ravens is execution. You had a lot of drops against the Steelers in the past. A lot of times Lamar Jackson is drifting outside the pocket. Just throw the football away. Live to see another down. You don't want TJ Watt to get to you. Not because he's a sack machine. This is a man that will get to the quarterback and knock the football out of their hands. And he'll go for a forced fumble. And that's what the Steelers, that's what they're winning off of right now. With their defense making those big time plays. Taking the football away. Limit the turnovers. And if Derrick Henry fumbles, like I said a couple weeks ago in that rematch against the Steelers, if he fumbles the football, so what? Feed him again. Get him the football. Don't give up on the run game. Even early on, if Derrick Henry is only averaging 2 to 3 yards a carry, feed him. He may take off for a big 40 to 50 yard gain. And the next thing you know, you're in scoring position. And now the Steelers, they have to go out there and they have to make adjustments on the defensive end. And then Lamar Jackson can spread the defense back out. But quick passes are going to help you. Taking occasional deep shots down the field to Nelson Aguilar, Isaiah Likely, and those guys will definitely help you out. But go out there and tire out the Steelers defense, and then you can run the football on them with Derrick Henry. You didn't bring him to this team for nothing. And the reason why I keep bringing that up is because Todd Monken in the past has gotten away from the run game. Just stick with the run game and make sure that Lamar Jackson is comfortable. Lamar Jackson has done an excellent job of taking care of the football. He did throw an interception to Micah Fitzpatrick in the second matchup. But when you look at the defense, they came out there, they got a pick six. Now let's talk about this defense. They are the best team in the league against the run. Make the Steelers run dimensional. Take away Jaylen Warren, take away Najee Harris, especially in the receiving game. The Steelers love to use the running backs in short yardage situations across the middle of the field. And when you look at what the defensive coordinator, Zachary Orr, was able to do in both games, he took away the running backs in receiving game. He made Russell Wilson have to go out there and make long and tough decisions. All the things underneath, they took that away. Make the Steelers have to take deep shots down the field. Even though the passing defense with the Baltimore Ravens is ranked 32nd this season, the last 8 weeks of the regular season, they were rated within the top 10 because of the adjustments that they had on the back end. A lot of those big plays they gave up early in the year came down to miscommunication. They have very good players in the secondary, with Brandon Stevens, who's a very good cornerback. You look at Kyle Hamilton, one of the best defensive players that you can have this season in the secondary. The man can play linebacker if he needs to. He's listed as a safety. He can play outside corner, nickel cornerback, linebacker. He's all over the field. Move him around. Confuse Russell Wilson at the line of scrimmage. And you look at Marlon Humphrey, who is also a very good player in his own right. You want to put that pressure on Russell Wilson. Make Russell Wilson beat you. Make him have to turn back the clock. And if he does, you can be okay with that because Zachary Orr can make those adjustments. But you take away that run game, make them one-dimensional. And the reason why I'm saying that it's not because Russell Wilson is a bad quarterback. Russell Wilson has played solid in the last 4 games. Just the execution isn't there on the offensive end. The plays they're running just aren't good. And their offensive line, in the last 4 weeks, they've taken a major step back. You have Kyle Van Noy, who can get to the quarterback, and you have Oweh, 2 very good pass rushers. In the first matchup, they were getting to Russell Wilson at a high clip in the first half. In the second half, not so much. In the second game, they were able to get to Russell Wilson. They were able to push the pocket. You want to make sure that you have some gap responsibilities so Russell Wilson isn't able to move around and kill you with his legs. Because in the first half of that second game, the Steelers were in that game. And Russell Wilson had a mean scramble going into the red zone, but he fumbled the football. Very good hit by the defensive player. But at the same time, if he slides right there, they could walk away with 3 points or a touchdown. You want to limit those rushing attempts that Russell Wilson has. He doesn't have the speed of a Justin Fields, but he can still move around and give you problems with his legs. You just want to make sure that you keep all the wide receivers in front of you. And I will put George Pickens in press man coverage. You do have to worry about the moon ball here. But the reason why I put George Pickens in press man coverage, he has a seam right since he hurt that hamstring 5 weeks ago. He hasn't been the same player. He's coming off the worst game of his career. 1 catch, 0 receiving yards. And the way to defend the moon ball is really tricky. The wide receiver shows his hands very late. And it's hard for a defensive player to go out there and react to that. But if you bump George Pickens to the sideline, you stay on his hip, you may be able to deflect the moon ball. You're going to have a safety over the top. So if you get beat, that's okay. But pinch that sideline. If he does come down with the ball, try to push him out of bounds. Make sure he only gets 1 foot in bounds. The moon ball is one of the hardest deep balls to defend. But the Baltimore Ravens have done a good job of defending that pass, not only just in the second matchup, but in the first matchup. And I listed all those cornerbacks and the players in the secondary in this game. It's one player in particular that I look at. It's Tre'Davious White. He's on the bench right now, but he's a veteran. He had many good years with the Buffalo Bills, and with the Los Angeles Rams, he just couldn't find a way to touch the field like how he wanted to. Came over to the Baltimore Ravens. They have him in a rotation. You can put him on George Pickens in short yardage situations. Not for the entire game, but give George Pickens different looks and be on lookout for Calvin Austin III moving deep down the field. And I will look at the tight end, Pat. You have Roquan Smith, who was one of the best linebackers, especially in the interior. He's very good against coverage, very good against the run. I will have him bump against Pat and have him chip a lot on that side. Have him jam him up on the line of scrimmage to make sure that he is kept in check the entire game. Because one thing the Steelers have done a very good job of over the last month is get Big Pat involved since George Pickens went down. But look at the Baltimore Ravens. Physicality is going to be your best friend. And going out there and being able to execute on the offensive end, not having those drops, being technically sound, drain clock if you need to. But Justin Tucker has to make his kicks. Lamar Jackson has to make those crucial throws, which he's done a great job of this season, and run the football with Derrick Henry and be physical. You have all the tools to win this game, but Lamar Jackson has to calm down, and Todd Monken has to help him be comfortable. He doesn't have to go out there and throw for 3 passing touchdowns this matchup. If Derrick Henry's taking off, run this offense through Derrick Henry. Don't make Lamar Jackson be the star if he doesn't have to be, because playing hero ball will easily lose you this matchup for either team, for the Steelers and the same with the Ravens. Now let's talk about the Steelers. The Ravens, 4-game winning streak. Steelers, 4-game losing streak. Russell Wilson, over this 4-game span, 4 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble. One of the interceptions came against the Kansas City Chiefs in the red zone. I'll take the hit for this one. It wasn't all on Russell Wilson. He still shouldn't have thrown the football, but George Pickens gave up on his route. They have to find a way to keep George Pickens engaged. You're not going to make a move to trade George Pickens or cut him. He's going to play. So all the people that are saying that they should be done with George Pickens, not just yet. George Pickens is still their best wide receiver. You can make the case that he's their best offensive player. Feed him the football, but he has to step up. What he did last week against the Cincinnati Bengals will easily get this team beat against the Baltimore Ravens. Feed George Pickens, run some tunnel screens, get creative, and get him the football. Keep him engaged. When I look at Calvin Austin III and Pat at the tight end position, and I look at Darnell Washington, a 2 tight end set will definitely help you out against the Ravens. You want to run the football, it's going to be tough because Najee Harris doesn't have the speed coming out of the backfield. He is a bigger running back. You have to run the backfield through Jaylen Warren in this matchup because the Baltimore Ravens, they're physical and they're fast. Jaylen Warren is not a top running back to have, but he's a very good running back, especially in small doses. You feed him early on, and then you put in Najee Harris. In short yardage situations, you can run the football with Najee Harris. Run a full house package. Get everyone in the backfield. Have some tight ends in the backfield. Put in a fullback if you need to. You want to beat them. Strength to strength. You don't want to get out bullied by the Baltimore Ravens. And that's what happened in the second matchup. And that is rare for the Steelers. Their offense is going through a lot right now. It seems like they're just going through the motions. Go out there and try to attempt some big plays early on and keep guys engaged. But it starts up front from the tackle, left tackle position to the right tackle position. They have to protect Russell Wilson, and he has to do a better job getting the football out quicker. When I look at the Baltimore Ravens defense, you can beat them deep, but you don't have to do it every single play. It's certain points in times where Russell Wilson's trying to play hero ball when he doesn't need to. He's trying to overcompensate because the offensive line has not been good the last month. I understand that, but you can help slow down pressure with screens, get the football in the hands of Najee Harris, get the football into the hands of Jaylen Warren, and the same with Cordell Patterson. Short passes can help you out. And just because the cornerbacks are right there on the back of the wide receiver, that's where ball placement comes into effect. And we saw Russell Wilson do a great job of this against the Cleveland Browns, not just in the first encounter, but in the second encounter. Go back and try to gain leverage against this Ravens defense. It's going to be tough because they have one of the best front sevens this season. But when I look at the Steelers, Russell Wilson has been here before, and the same with Mike Tomlin. And across the middle of the field, you could take some deep shots there. The problem is this: Russell Wilson doesn't have enough time to see across the middle of the field because the offensive line has not been good. And we've seen the offensive line go out there and make adjustments. Last week against Trey Hendrickson, they didn't make any adjustments. And the first match against the Cleveland Browns, Myles Garrett owned them the entire day, but in the second matchup, they did a very good job of taking care of Russell Wilson. Help out your offensive lineman. Chip block a tight end. Have Najee Harris in to block. He's the better blocking running back. Use those guys more than just being a tight end and more than just being a running back. Use those guys as blockers to give Russell Wilson some more time inside the pocket. Do some check and release routes. Do some delayed routes. Anything to just give this offense a pulse will help out. And I look at Justin Fields. You can bring in Justin Fields if you want to. Let him run around with the football. Let him have some nice passes here and there. Keep the Baltimore Ravens on their toes and run some hurry-up offense just to keep the Steelers players involved. Last week, they were walking around. They were moping around. You don't want to have that in this matchup because there is no next week if you lose. Your next week is going home. So all bets are off. Unload the playbook in this matchup. And I look at Arthur Smith. He's going to be their biggest key to whether they win or lose in this game. I trust Russell Wilson against the Ravens. He did have a pick six in the last matchup, and that is a bad throw by Russ. But he's also had some good moments. They were in that game at halftime, but he fumbled the football in the red zone. Taking care of the football is going to be a key here. But I look at Russ. I think that he will learn from those mistakes, and he has to be better in this game. And if he doesn't, you could possibly put in Justin Fields for a couple plays and see if he can give you a boost. When I look at the defense for the Steelers, they have to play better in this game against Derrick Henry. I'm more so concerned about Derrick Henry in this matchup than Lamar Jackson, and I know that's crazy. And that's no disrespect to the league, the reigning MVP right now, who may win his second MVP in back-to-back years. But Derrick Henry had his way. He averaged 7 yards a carry against a Steelers team that has a top 5 rushing defense. Patrick Queen did not have a good second game. He hasn't been good over the last few weeks, not being consistent. In the first half of the season, he looked very good for the Steelers. And I look at Patrick Queen. You're going against your former team. He came out with an edge in the first matchup. He came out with a vengeance to stop Derrick Henry, to stop the run, to stop the tight ends, to hit Zay Flowers on the way down across the middle of the field. Come with that same intensity. Come with that same aggressiveness. And the same with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. This is also a problem with the Steelers defense. They're struggling against quarterbacks that can run. We saw this against Jameis Winston in that snow game Thursday Night Football. We've seen this against Lamar Jackson not once but twice this season. The problem with Lamar Jackson beating this defense, they confused him on the back end with Micah Fitzpatrick. And we saw Micah Fitzpatrick get that interception 4 weeks ago. They're able to go back there and confuse him on the back end. And you have Joy Porter Jr., who will play in this matchup. Dante Jackson is questionable. He missed last week's game, but hopefully he can play in this matchup. You can confuse Lamar Jackson on the back end with Micah Fitzpatrick and those press man corners and those different looks that you give them. They played a lot of single high safety looks in the last 2 games. And then at the same time, you'll see them go out there. They'll take a safety off the field. And then they'll just go zero blitz on Lamar Jackson. And then he goes deer in headlights. Herbig, Highsmith, TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, Keanu Ben. All those guys are going to have to hit home, stop the run game, and pressure Lamar Jackson. Keep him flustered the entire day. And the Steelers have done this in the past. That motion has given the Steelers a lot of problems. Now, to their credit, they did a very good job last week of containing Joe Burrow. They held Joe Burrow and that team to under 20 points. I think the Steelers defense, if you give them enough time to catch their breath, if the offense doesn't have those turnovers, they don't have the 3 and outs, they should be very good to go out there and match the intensity with the Baltimore Ravens and athleticism. This is a very good defense for the Steelers. All around, this is easily their best unit. This unit and their special teams unit. That's going to also help dictate this game. They're going to have to win at all 3 levels. Offense, defense, special teams. But I think that TJ Watt will go out there and have a career postseason game. I think that will happen in this matchup. And I think that as long as you're able to pinch down on Derrick Henry and you're able to keep Lamar Jackson in check with his legs, you're going to have a fighting chance. And in the red zone, you'll be okay. As long as you don't give up 7 points. Bend but don't break defense has really helped the Steelers out within the last few years when they've been dealing with terrible quarterback play from Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett. They're in top of the league in takeaways. So having those playmakers on the defense is definitely going to help out. This is going to be a tough physical game. These Baltimore Ravens and Steelers games are always close. I don't see this being a blowout. I know the last game, you could say that it got out of hand. It was a blowout for the Ravens. It was due to the miscues because of the Steelers, just like the miscues in the first game with the Ravens. But I do take this into account. The Ravens, you can make the case they would have won that first game if they didn't have the interception, they didn't have the missed kicks by Justin Tucker. But they didn't win that game. In the second game, the game was close, and then the Steelers got in their own way, and the Ravens took advantage of it. I think the Baltimore Ravens will win this game, and I have the Baltimore Ravens winning this game 27-23. But let me know in the comment section below, who do you have winning this game, the Baltimore Ravens or the Steelers? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.